There's a kind of heaviness no doctor can weigh. It doesn't swell the ankles or strain the back, yet you feel it when you wake and when you close your eyes. It's the residue of years, the people you kept walking with long after your feet were blistered, the roles you kept playing after the stage went dark, the old stories you believed even after life had proven kinder than they claimed. You can't set this heaviness on a bathroom scale. You can only feel it and choose at last to put it down. That is where the Buddhist teachings on letting go stop being ideas and become a way of breathing. Letting go is not a performance of strength. It is a soft, sustained honesty. It is how a hand opens after clenching too long. In the chapters that follow, I'll walk beside you like a close companion, not a lecturer, and share 6 living lessons from ordinary life. They are not slogans. They are not tricks. They are the small, repeatable ways an ordinary person discovers freedom, one quiet decision at a time. One when people hurt your peace, the shoes you keep because you once loved them. Elaine was 73, a watercolorist who kept her brushes in a coffee mug that still smelled faintly of cinnamon. On her back porch, the afternoon light landed on everything like mercy. She had a friend, let's call her Jay, from a decade when they'd both been sleep-deprived mothers and co-conspirators against chaos. Jay used to bring casseroles and jokes. Lately, she brought critiques. You're wasting your time with those classes. Why are you still painting flowers? At our age, you should be practical. Elaine smiled and made tea the way you do for someone who once knew your children's nicknames. After each visit, her chest felt tight. She's just blunt, Elaine told herself. But the truth was simpler every time Jay left. Elaine's art table sat untouched for days, like a piano closed on a half-finished song. One evening, Elaine was getting ready for a gallery night. She reached for sandals she'd loved 15 years ago, supple, strappy, a color that made her feel like summer. She slid in and winced. Somewhere along the way, her feet had changed. The sandals hadn't. She stood there, holding the straps like a decision. She could force herself into them and hobble. Or she could accept what was obvious. They were beautiful once. They were painful now. She chose flats. She walked to the car, free. Some relationships are exactly like that. Beloved once, blistering now. We keep them out of loyalty to a past that no longer fits the present. The Buddhist teachings on letting go do not ask you to hate what you outgrew. They ask you to tell the truth about fit. When the truth is told, your steps become your own again. If you'd like to explore this for yourself, here's a gentle. After your next difficult interaction, write 2 columns, what I feel in my body vs. what I tell myself. If your body says tight, shallow breath, and your mind says it's fine, trust the body. Your nervous system is wiser than your habit of pleasing. Choose one kind boundary sentence. Say it plainly once, repeat it calmly as needed. I'm not available for conversations that tear down my work. If we can't avoid that, we'll talk less often. You are not rejecting a person, you are protecting a path. Letting go here isn't drama, it's footwear. Pick what lets you walk without bleeding. That's letting go of toxic relationships. Not a verdict on someone's worth, but an honest measurement of what your soul can wear. 2, when you quietly fear the mirror. The silver that deepens instead of dims. There's a small jewelry box on Amir's dresser, a gift from his late wife. Inside, a simple silver band catches the window light. When he was 30, it gleamed with a bright insistence. In his 70s, it wears a soft gray that looks like dusk after a kind day. He used to polish it every month because that's what you do with nice things. Then one afternoon, his granddaughter slipped it on and said, "I like it better like this. It looks like it's lived." The sentence stayed with him. It loosened something. He stopped scrubbing the ring back to an idea of newness and started admiring what time had made of it. The ring had not been ruined. It had been revealed. The culture sells a cruel arithmetic. Value equals youth, and everything else is subtraction. The Buddhist wisdom on aging proposes a kinder math. Value equals truth, and truth grows more visible as pretenses fall away. The skin changes. The flame continues. A line near the eyes might be the trace of 1,000 times you laughed while pouring tea. The softness of the shoulders might be the mercy of laying burdens down. We do not have to pretend we love every change. But if we stop treating aging like a betrayal and begin seeing it as a signature, fear recedes. The ring doesn't need to shine like it did in 1972 to be worthy. Neither do you. Here's a way to look at aging with softer eyes, something you can practice tomorrow morning. The next time you meet a new crease in the mirror, ask, "What did life write here?" Let an actual memory surface. Say thank you to that memory. Gratitude makes room for tenderness where shame once stood. Choose one maintenance practice, not to look younger but to feel more alive. Sleep as ritual, a 10-minute walk as prayer, gentle stretching as respect. You are not restoring youth. You are shepherding energy. That distinction brings peace. Aging is not a problem to solve. It's a landscape to learn, and learning it with patience is one of the quiet doors to finding peace in later life. 3. When comparison steals your day, playing the music that fits your hands. In the orchestra pit, Nora lifted her violin and smiled at the new first chair. He was talented the way rain is wet. Fast, obvious, bright like a bell. During rehearsal, he sprinted through a run she once played without thinking. Her fingers hesitated on the strings, and a sharp thought cut in. I used to be able to do that. After the break, the conductor leaned over. "Take the solo in the andante, will you?" The movement slowed the hall into a listening you could feel. Nora's bow drew a long, patient note that began like a sigh and settled like a blessing. When the last vibration faded, even the new first chair was quiet for a moment, as if he just learned a word he didn't know existed. It dawned on Nora as she packed her case. She hadn't lost the music. She'd changed the tempo. She no longer chased speed. She carried depth. She didn't need to outrun anyone. She needed to honor the score her hands could now play. The Buddha warned that comparison disturbs the mind because it tries to hold one season against another as if they were the same day. Youth plays allegro and should. Later chapters tend toward adagio. Both are beautiful. Neither is better. Whenever you catch yourself comparing, here's a small way to tune your mind back to peace. When comparison hits, name aloud 3 abilities you possess now that youth lacked. Maybe patience, timing, discernment, the courage to say no. Write them where you can see them in the morning. You are reminding yourself which instrument you are holding today. Rehearse this sentence until it becomes easy. That's their race. This is my road. Then return to your pace, which is not less, it's yours. Peace begins when we stop scolding ourselves for not being someone else's weather. The Buddhist teachings on letting go here are simple. Let go of the timeline you imagined, and your life's actual music will find you. 4. When you wait for someone else to make you happy, stop being a thermometer. Tomas worked HVAC for 40 years, the kind of practical wisdom that turns broken rooms into comfort. After he retired, he realized his mood still acted like a device he once installed, a thermometer. If his grown children called, the reading rose. If a plan fell through, it dropped. He had outsourced the dial to whoever walked in the door. One Saturday he stood in his kitchen, the morning quiet as a chapel, and laughed at himself. If I knew how to balance air in a building, he said, I can learn to balance it in here. He touched his chest. He wrote on an index card, thermostat, not thermometer. He didn't mean indifference. He meant responsibility. 3 minutes of breathing before news. 3 gratitudes scratched onto a sticky note during lunch. 3 slow inhales at a red light with hands consciously unclenched. None of this produced fireworks. It produced something rarer, steadiness. That steadiness was not the absence of sorrow. Loss still visited, but it stopped smashing his internal panel. Joy, he learned, wasn't a delivery. It was a daily setting. The moment he chose it as practice, he stopped blaming the weather. Try this little daily ritual. It doesn't take long, but it sets your inner climate on your terms. Write your 333 on paper and tape it to a kettle, a mirror, a phone. 3 minutes breathe, am. 3 gratitudes, midday. 3 minutes rest, p.m. If you find yourself refreshing a message thread for the 4th time, pause and set a micro appointment with yourself. A 5-minute walk, a glass of water, 2 stretches. You're teaching your brain that your well-being has an owner, and it's you. This is the quiet freedom at the center of the Buddhist teachings on letting go. The hand that adjusts your inner climate is your own. 5. When you think it's too late to learn. Updating what you already have. Marisol used to say, I'm an analog person in a digital world. She meant it as a charming apology for not knowing how to use her phone beyond the call button. Then she started forgetting appointments, losing slips of paper with grocery lists, waking at 3 a.m. Convinced she'd promised something to someone somewhere and failed to write it down. At 78, she gave herself an assignment. 20 minutes a day for 1 month to learn the Notes app on her phone and a breath practice her neighbor taught her. The first week, she wanted to throw the phone into the sink. The second week, her shopping trip stopped ending in frustration. By the third, her breathing practice shortened the 3 a.m. panic into a quiet minute that returned her to sleep. She didn't become young. She became more herself than she'd felt in years. Brains change. They also change the way they change. Curiosity keeps lights on in hallways we assumed were dark for good. Learning at 70 is not imitation of 20, it is calibration for now. If you'd like to keep your mind awake and curious, here's a small, joyful habit you can begin. Pick one update for your month. It can be technical, physical, artistic, or spiritual. Keep a tiny changelog on paper. Day 3, found search in notes. Day 9, remembered to exhale longer than inhale and fell asleep faster. Celebrate the most boring progress imaginable, 5 minutes easier than last week. The brain adores consistent, gentle repetition. You're not building a statue, you're growing ivy. The Buddhist teachings on letting go here ask you to release the story that newness belongs to youth. Newness belongs to attention, and attention is ageless. 6. When the past will not let you rest. Ink on a page you can still write. There's a box of old drafts under Ray's desk, essays he started and abandoned, paragraphs he crossed out, sentences with coffee rings bleeding through the words. For years, he saw only error when he glimpsed that box. When his wife died, grief turned his vision even harsher. Look, he'd mutter at himself, all the things you never finished. A friend stopped by one afternoon, took a page from the box and read it aloud. This part, she said, tapping a sentence with a gentle finger, is beautiful. It just belongs somewhere else. She found a clean sheet, recopied the line, and placed it on top as if it were a seed. Ray stared at the small transplant. The past did not have to be garbage. It could be compost. Overcoming regret and self-forgiveness isn't amnesia. It is editing with kindness. You keep the truth. You cut the cruelty. You rewrite what can be rewritten. the next action, the next choice, the next hour. When old regrets visit at night, here's a way to meet them kindly instead of harshly. Write the second draft of a single regret. One paragraph is enough. If I could redo that day, I would have said, I would have chosen, then do a small version of that choice now with the person in front of you today, even if that person is you. Whisper, hand on heart. I did the best I could with what I saw. Today I see more. Today I will do better. This isn't a loophole, it's a vow. Pages with ink stains are still part of the book. Some of them become your readers' favorites because that is where your voice learned how to be honest. This is how you begin finding peace in later life. Not by erasing chapters, but by writing the next one with your whole attention. Sparkles, these teachings can sound beautiful in words, but their real power shows up in small, ordinary choices. You don't need a monastery, and you don't need a perfect morning routine. What you need are gentle experiments, like planting tiny seeds in the soil of your daily life. Each seed asks for only a minute, a breath, a word. Over time, those seeds grow into the peace you've been longing for. Boundary breath before a hard conversation. Lengthen your exhale. Count 4 in, 6 out for 1 minute. It's a tiny rehearsal for letting go. You release longer than you grasp. Mirror gratitude. Name one line or gray hair and thank it for a specific memory it carries. Gratitude rewires shame into affection. Comparison to compassion. When you catch yourself thinking, I used to, add, and now I, complete the sentence with a present strength. This trains the mind to include today in the inventory of gifts. Thermostat note. Place a note on your phone. Set the temperature. Every time you reach for it, perform one internal act first. Breath, smile, unclench. You are teaching your nervous system where authority lives. 20-minute update. Choose a skill and practice it at the same time daily for 20 minutes. Do not aim for remarkable, aim for repeatable. Second draft ritual. When regret visits, write a 3-sentence amendment. Then make one immediate action, an apology, a kindness, a donation, a changed plan that aligns with the new draft. These are not dramatic. They are faithful. Faithfulness, more than drama, builds a life that feels like your own. Some days you will do all of this and still feel low. That's not failure, that's weather. Buddhism does not promise endless sunshine. It offers a way to be at home under any sky. The Buddhist teachings on letting go are not a recipe for avoiding pain. They are a way to avoid the extra pain of resisting what is already here. You can let go and still grieve. You can set a boundary and still care. You can embrace aging and still miss your old hands. You can forgive yourself and still feel a twinge when a familiar street resurrects an old choice. All of that is human. Peace does not mean silence. Peace means your own voice becomes audible again beneath the noise. If you remember nothing else, remember this picture. You at a table with a box of your life's pages. Some are careful, some are chaotic. You don't scatter them on the floor and demand perfection. You stack them gently. You run your palm over the top as if comforting a child. Then you pick up your pen and continue. This is how you begin finding peace in later life, by treating your days as pages worth writing, not cases to be argued, by choosing shoes you can actually walk in, by admiring the silver you wear as proof of endurance, by playing the music that suits your hands, by setting your own inner climate with quiet rituals, by learning something small and letting it change you, by editing your regrets into instructions instead of indictments. This, in plain language, is the path the Buddhist teachings on letting go point to. Not a spiritual performance, a human practice, and not a sprint to become someone else. A walk to become fully, kindly, enduringly yourself. If any part of this spoke to you, I'd love to hear which. What are you setting down this week? What are you choosing to carry with both hands with love? Your answer might be the sentence someone else needed to borrow for their next page. And if you'd like a companion for the road ahead, subscribe to Infinite Buddhist Teachings. We'll keep walking, lightly and honestly, until the path itself feels like home.